All right, everyone, welcome back to another Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes video with Fat Phil. And today what we're going to be taking a look at is CG's response to the raid. We now have had the raid for roughly about a week, a little bit over a week, and CG has come out with their first kind of update on the raid where there's some bugs they're fixing, there's some interactions they're looking into, and I gotta say, there's a lot of really good news in here. There's a lot of good news that initially maybe it didn't look like it, but it's there, and I think I want to give Capital Games their flowers for this. We're going to kind of analyze it because I'm not going to say it's all perfect and that's all great. There's some things I'm not quite as pleased with, but the communication here is really, really good. And CG Meathead deserve a lot of credit for how well that communication has come off here. I think it's working really, really well. And, you know, I want to give them the flowers. I want to give them the credit that, you know, this is a good communication, good update, and allows us to kind of prepare, know what to prepare for in the raid. So let's give a huge shout out to the channel members though, guys, because without them, I don't get to do this kind of stuff. It's not just about their membership. It's the fact that they support me, right? The encouragement they provide, the ideas they generate for me. When I need a laugh or something, they're always there. So I really appreciate these folks. Just everything they do is awesome. You guys are wonderful human beings, and I look forward to every single time I get to interact with you guys and talk. So thank you again. Let's get in here though, and let's talk about this raid, announcement update from CG that was released yesterday. All right, so we're gonna flip over to the, we'll kind of hide the little Disney fun there. So we've got the text right here. So let's start off with, Meathead kind of came out and said, "Hey guys, we're enjoying watching you dive into the raid. The team has been watching your attempts and have noticed some bugs and made some observations we wanted to make you aware of." So undersized teams is first. And by the way, what we'll do for each of these is I'll kind of talk about whether it's good news, bad news, or, we're going to move through each one in order. So undersized teams. This is the one I think everybody was kind of curious about. The Order 66 raid description and modifiers indicate that undersized teams get penalized for bringing in less than 5 characters in an attempt. The team is evaluating whether the current penalty is reflective of the balance expectation of the raid for the higher modifier tiers. So this, if you are an endgame player, you're like kind of quivering because it looks like they could be making the raid harder. But if you're a lower tier player, they're only looking at those higher tiers. So I think this is good news. Like, this is very good news that they're really only looking at the higher tiers. And what they're really saying is, where this is coming into play, in case you're like, hey, Phil, I've not really seen that. I'm not sure what you're referring to. It's in Lord Vader's description here, the Twisted Omen here. Lord Vader can't be targeted while all Nightfall troopers and these guys are active. He's immune to cooldown, turn meter manipulation, has 0 speed. At the start of battle, Lord Vader has 25 stacks of execute, reduced to 15 if there were fewer than 5 enemies. So what this is saying is he's going to get 25 to start. If you bring 4, 3, 2, or 1 character, right? Doesn't matter how many below 5. If it's 4, 3, 2, or 1, you're going to get reduced to 15 stacks. So you're going to lose 10 right away. So it's kind of a blanket modifier where there's no penalty to there's no difference in bringing 4 versus 3 from a stacks of execute perspective. Obviously, the raid gets more challenging if you bring less in some instances. So with that, they're trying to figure out, all right, is this working at the higher tiers? The one I think they're really looking at, and again, I think we all knew this, but the one I feel that they've really had their eye on is the dark side clone split, where Tarkin and Scorch are going in and duoing the max tier, and then Disguised Clone Troopers, CX2, and Oppo are all also going in and, tripling the raid. So you're able to split that team into 2, and, you're splitting one team of 5 into 2 and getting a max score. That's the one I think they're really eyeing here. If you're an endgame player, obviously that can change your guild's investment levels to the sense of, okay, maybe we need to invest in some other teams. For a guild like mine, we benefited a little bit from this, but it kind of came out after we'd done our attempts. But it doesn't really change how I'm going to be investing in the raid because I was already planning on bringing the clones to Relic 9. So I can't really sit there and be like, oh, this is awful. Like, I think none of us were really anticipating that split. So they're potentially, and again, they haven't confirmed they're going to do anything. So this could stay the same. So it's one of these where I'm like, all right, they're taking away something that they never really wanted to have happen. Fine. But we will have to see how that pans out. So to me, this is good news. They're not touching the lower tiers for the player base, and it's kind of no news because they're not really making a decision yet. They just said they're looking at what to do. Next, Disguised Clone Trooper's Clever Ruse does not grant 20% turn meter at the proper time. Since this not only impacts the player obtainable version, but also enemy version in the raid, we need to do some more in-depth investigating here. We will do our best to decide on and communicate our preferred solution quickly. So this again is just kind of communicating that they're looking at this. Nothing is going to be changing. This does help the players more than it hurts us, because there's only one team that we get to use Disguised Clone Trooper with, where we're facing one in every single wave. We're facing multiples of them. So them not gaining it at the right time, I think this is more if they do nothing with this, it helps us more than it hurts us. But it is a bug. The kit's not working as designed. I can understand them, but because it's going both ways, they are trying to, I think, figure out how that's supposed to be working. The next thing, again, going both ways, except this will be getting fixed, is damage over time stacks from Disguised Clone Trooper are triggering whenever the unit performs an ability instead of start of turn. This is for both player obtainable and enemy version in the raid. Will be fixed in an upcoming update. So basically what that means is, and where this could be factored in as one on the enemy clones, right? They're able to take a turn, reduce a stack of execute or more, and then they'll die from the damage over time. Whereas, they should just die at the start. And on the flip side, as a character, okay, I have a damage over time. Maybe I'm just about to die. I get some health steal from an ability, and now I don't. So I'd say this is definitely hurting us more than helping us. So them fixing this would be a good change. And again, they've already communicated saying this will be fixed in an upcoming update. So that's happening. Next, they're talking about the pirate modifier. A reminder that the pirates and their modifier are still undergoing testing. We started the modifier in a decent place with room to grow, and the team is likely going to buff the current pirate modifier to be more beneficial for our new pirates. That's great. It's perfect. We don't have a lot of pirates to begin with, so they're not really a great scoring team right now. But knowing that they're going to get better in the raid is something that could give players cause to potentially put more investment into them. So I'm all for that, and I'm glad that they're at least mentioning, hey guys, because if you are someone who is seeing the pirates and you're like, I'm not investing in this team, they're trash, they're going to be getting better. So they're communicating that now, letting you know, hey, they're going to be performing at a higher level than they are. Next is Keller and Beck. We've observed Keller and Beck performing exceptionally well under certain circumstances, and while we're monitoring their progress, our current status is to not intervene, but to keep monitoring. We'll keep eyes on it if we feel it starts to get out of hand. So this is great. At least for the current time, Keller and Beck, which is probably the most player-friendly team in regards to being a crossover from the Naboo raid, performing really well. I think them not changing this is solid. I think it's fantastic. That's good news for us as players, that you can be safe in knowing that your Keller and Beck is not going to be touched at the time. Now, the one caveat I will say here is they're going to continue to keep eyes. One thing that just, again, conspiracy theorist, tinfoil hat on, right? I didn't get that Gungi's award for nothing. There's a part of me that wonders if they're going to leave this as is until maybe some more pirates make it to the game, and then, oh, Keller and Beck's fixed because there's some more teams in the raid. Again, that's just tinfoil hat, but it is something that I did want to bring up. But overall right now, this is good news. They're leaving it go. You're going to be able to take advantage of how good that team is, and it is performing really, really well. So I'm, thumbs up to me. Right now, good news. Could potentially be bad news later on down the line. Captain Itano. After internal balance testing, Captain Itano's leader is getting a buff to boost the Pirate Marquis squad in PvP and scoring potential in the raid for players chasing Galactic Legend Hondo. This is currently planned for release alongside the third Pirate Marquis. Now, this to me is a little bit frustrating. And I'm going to flip over to the game just to kind of walk through this, right? So Itano's leadership is, not that great, right? The testing that Arnold was doing, Itano really kind of lackluster right now. It's not, this leadership obviously not very good, right? The problem is, I think they tried to go bare bones on his leadership because they don't want a Jedi Knight Revan situation on their hands. And what I'm kind of referring to in that light, where's my Jedi Knight Revan? Jedi Knight Revan is still probably the second best Jedi leadership in the game, right? This is the second best Jedi leadership, you know, like for true Jedi. Jedi Master Kenobi, not counting, like Jedi Master Luke, Jedi Knight Revan, two best leaderships for Jedi in the game. And I think they want to avoid having Itano have this really, really good leadership that he might be a leader for pirates and not be intended to. Because he's not the intended leader for pirates. So I can't sit there and say, oh yeah, like his leadership is terrible and they should have made it better. My frustration is that I feel he shouldn't have been the leader at all, right? I think this leads into a little bit of, I'd say, lackluster planning on their part, that we should have had the pirate leader available to us a lot sooner, the intended pirate leader sooner to us, and not, you know, Itano where he is right now. So I am a little bit frustrated with that. You know, good news not just for the raid, but the game, that they are fixing it. But I can't say I'm not a little bit frustrated that it just feels like this is something that you should have known, releasing the not designed leader first and not making the leadership good enough was going to be a problem for the player base. And to kind of give another comparison instead of just Jedi Knight Revan, it's kind of like Rogue One. Jyn Erso has a leadership ability, right? She has a leader into the fray. This was actually the leader for the Rogue Ones before Adrad. But Adrad is the real leader, right? This is the one that's actually the leadership. So like Jyn's lead is like, you know, it's not really great. But this is significantly better, and that's what I'm thinking is going to be more of the Itano type situation, right? So again, good news that they're boosting it, that they're recognizing it. I just am not a fan that it had to happen in the first place, right? So again, overall good news that it's getting updated. It is coming with the third pirate marquee, so a little bit like, why can't we have this sooner? But you know, it is what it is. They're fixing it. That's better than nothing. Next is the Order 66 raid Fox bug. One stack of execute is not being removed from Vader when the targeted enemy has at least one buff. This will be fixed in an upcoming update. This is a bug. It will make runs harder because Fox isn't working properly. So Lord Vader's not losing as many stacks of execute as he should. Yeah, again, not great for the player base, but it's a bug. It's not working. It's bugged, right? It's not like it's not working as intended like the Underman Teams. This is something that they coded into the raid, and it's not working right now, so they're fixing it. It is what it is. And then finally, the Bad Batch modifier. This was already notified. They said, hey, there's the final tier Bad Batch modifier is applying to all tiers. This will be fixed and only be applied in tier 7. So this one, not great for the player base. Right? You know, it is a bug, but this goes into something that I have to say about some of these modifiers is the tier modifiers for the Bad Batch and everybody else, right? When you get to the final tier for the Bad Batch, it's 100% accuracy. And let me hide the fat face so you guys can read the whole thing. Let's do that. So, the final tier for Bad Batch says 100% accuracy. Whenever an enemy dispels marked, they are marked again for 1 turn, can't be copied, dispelled, prevented, resisted, and Lord Vader gains 10 stacks of execute. So, like, that's really, really nice. Stealth characters deal 50% more damage, and non-stealth characters take 50% less damage when targeted. So, one of those where you're like, all right, well, what's going to happen if, you know, my one fear in this light is the 10 stacks of execute is huge, but also if this team with, you know, that was benefiting from this, I said that it felt good, right? It felt good at the Relic 5 tier, like it was competing at that tier. With this change, if they're no longer able to make that Relic 5 tier feel accessible, if they're no longer to make this feel good, then I am going to have a problem. Then I am going to be a little bit upset because I understand they want to have modifiers for the tiers, but if I've invested in a Relic 5 Bad Batch, they should be able to attempt the Relic 5 tier. And that was one of the problems with the Naboo raid, was that the modifiers did not really carry into the lower tiers, and so a team like Luminara worked at Relic 5 and did not work at Relic 3. that's not, to me, that's a problem with the raid. They fixed that. My fear with the Bad Batch is if that modifier was playing a big role in determining successful attempts with them at a tier, I am going to have an issue. So that one's bad news because it was helping us, and it could be worse depending on their performance. I will keep you all updated on how I'm doing, and I'm sure other creators will do the same. So to go back to, the final update here, mostly good news, right? They're fixing bugs, which is okay, right? They need to fix bugs, even if it does hurt us. They're fixing them. They've communicated a lot here. Like overall review of this, they communicated a lot. They said, hey, we're aware of the undersized teams. That is really good compared to, I think, some of the other times where things have come out and happened and they're kind of like radio silent on if it's working the way they want or not working the way that they want. I've said a lot of times that, with this Darkside Raycron, I would love if they came out and said this is or isn't working the way we intended. It doesn't matter that if the answer is yes or no. I just would like to know that, and I feel like they did that with the raid, and I want to give them their flowers for it, because that has been a critique of mine, and it's really good here. I think they listed out everything, the clear, like very, meathead, very clear, like, hey, 1, 2, 3, like this is really good, very clear to understand. So thumbs up, guys. I'd say overall, this is very good news. It seems like they're really trying to make sure that this raid is going well. Really seems like they're trying to ensure that the lower tiers are still very accessible and that just the higher tiers are balanced, because it's not going to be fair, like to put on the hat of, oh, I can't get max crate. It's not fair if people are getting max crate through things not working the way CG intended, and then everybody else can't take advantage of that, right? There's an advantage of spending money, but is it too much of an advantage that they're getting right now? And I think that's what they're looking at with balance. So that said, let me know your thoughts. Like, subscribe, comment. I love you all. May the force be with you, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers, my friends.